Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. After a long time I'm coming back to make UPSC related content. So today we're discussing UPSC mains paper 1, which is the general essay. And as most of you know, but for those who don't, the essay is essentially you have to answer 2 questions, and for each question you have to write 1500 to 2000 words, or approximately 10 pages. So on the first look you might think I can just wing this paper, I can write whatever I have a good grip on English, I can write whatever I want for 10 pages, but writing 10 pages on a one-line topic is obviously harder than it looks, and pretty much impossible if you don't have a specific framework or template or an approach of some sort. So in a series of these videos I'm going to be walking you through around 8 approaches that I have found successful from various UPSC coaching sites to give you free access to it, and if you'd like you can implement these or some combination of the approaches or something like that to help you write your own essay. So today we're going to be discussing a sample question that I worked on, which is fulfillment of new women in India as a myth. So in the essay we have two broad types of questions. One of them being a completely philosophical question, like for example, the best time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. It's basically a philosophical quote, the ones that you see people posting on their WhatsApp status or as a good morning message. Like, those are such random philosophical old quotes from English literature books. And then we have these, which are more GS questions. So a lot of the points will come from GS oriented. Like this can come from GS to society or optional sociology. That's where you can find points for these answers. So the main approach that I thought of is one that actually ChatGPT gave to me, which is comprising of the following dimensions. So again, this is all about dimensions. We have to write, if there's 10 pages, the first page goes for the introduction, the last 10th page is for the conclusion, the 9th page is for an ante view of the topic. So if this topic is saying fulfillment of new women in India as a myth, then the 9th page should be it's not a myth, it has happened. And so page 2 to 8, so that's what, 7 pages approximately, it's the actual body, the meat of the paper. So you have to have 7 dimensions in that. What could those dimensions be? It varies per approach, but this ChatGPT, I'll call this a ChatGPT approach because I'm giving credit to the person that made it. So ChatGPT gave these 7 dimensions to think of when you're answering any of these GS type questions. So equality, education, environment, ethical lens, governance, happiness, and technology. So we're going to be using these 7 dimensions as our base for the body part. So each dimension should cover 1 page, and so that's around 2 paragraphs or 400 words per page. And you shouldn't really cross more than 150 words per page so that you can get around 1500 to 2000 on the dot within 10 pages. So I won't be discussing intro and conclusion. I mean, I will at some point, but not in this main series because this is more about the specific approaches. So without any further ado, let's get started. So obviously it's not live, so I can't do brainstorming or anything, but if you can see here, the first paragraph, I've already given a basic outline for this paragraph on equality. So what's the question? Fulfillment of new women in India as a myth. So what I've written here is, the concept of new women seeks to establish gender equality, ensuring fair opportunities for men and women in every domain in a way that eliminates all forms of stigma, oppression, and marginalization. This is hindered by modern practices in corporate sector workplaces and public attitudes in general. Glass ceiling, an invisible barrier that prevents women from reaching upper level management positions, prevents the notion of equality from being fulfilled. In the off chance that a woman does reach a senior position, she is subjected to sticky floors. So how many words has this gotten to? As you can see in this word count here, 84. So to fulfill the page limit, I need to write maybe another paragraph of this length, basically, to reach 160 at least. So let me finish this line first. In the off chance that a woman does reach senior position, she is subjected to sticky floors, which are hidden hidden barriers that prevent her from playing a genuine role in decision making. So that brought us to 100 words basically. Yeah, 100. So that's one paragraph. In this paragraph I discussed, so we have to prove that fulfillment of new women in India is a myth. So this concept of independent, financially independent, educated working woman, it's all a myth. It's not a reality in India. So how do we prove that in each dimension? So has equality been achieved? No, we've seen that through glass ceiling and sticky floors, equality hasn't been achieved. So in the second paragraph, we can talk about some other dimensions like, and you have to remember that these points shouldn't overlap. Each one should be unique and different in each dimension. So since we're talking about, we could talk about how in this gender inequality in political positions as a part of equality, but that might go into governance. So we should have to save those points for this next governance dimension. So that's what makes it a little bit challenging. But again, in the essay paper, you have a lot of time because you don't have to exactly do it on the dot in 7 minutes per page or 7 minutes per question. You have 1.5 hours for 2 essays. 3 hours for 2 essays, 1.5 hours for each essay. Which means what? You can spend like a half hour for brainstorming, 1 hour for actually writing the 10 pages. So time is never an issue in the essay paper. Coming back to this, so we have to write another paragraph, another 100 words. So what should we write? What should we talk about? Equality, education, environments, ethical governance, happiness, technology. Under equality, we've talked about glass ceiling and sticky floor, which is the corporate sector. So beyond that, we can talk about, as you can see, I have brainstormed here. So we talked about, gender pay parity. That's another important new age issue as well. So we can start writing saying that additionally, women are not compensated equally for the same work and labor effort exerted as a man. This gender pay parity intentionally refuses to accept the labor and hours of women. And how many words is that? 31. So now we're at 120 words. Depending on your handwriting, you could cross a page with this, but to be more realistic, we should finish the rest of it anyways. This gender pay parity intentionally refuses to accept the labor and hours of women as it is rooted in patriarchal attitudes, which historically supported a sexual division of labor where women were confined to domestic responsibilities and prevented and never paid in equal wages. So how are we up to now? 157. So that should be good enough for a page. Of course, we have to add a connector to the next paragraph and a transition statement, but those are all for the next part of the series. Let's talk about para 2 now, which is education. So how has the fulfillment of new women in India as a myth not been fulfilled in terms of education? So we can start with, despite various government schemes that promote education of children, such as BP, there is a stark gender gap in terms of enrollment ratios and continuity of higher education among women. When women do enter higher education, they are subjugated through institutional discrimination, which is a barrier that prevents them from moving forward. So that's 52 words, so we have a lot to write still, but as you can see, I established the problem first, that despite various government schemes that promote education of the girl child, there's a stark gender gap in terms of enrollment ratios and continuity of higher education among women. And when they do enter higher education, they're subjugated to institutional discrimination. So what this means is basically, if a woman does pursue a PhD or master's, she's subjected to harassment by her faculty or fellow students, or she's being asked for favors just to move on, for a signature or for a guidance of some sort. So these are all genuine issues that prevent fulfillment of the new woman in India. What else can I write about? Let me see my brainstorm here. So under education, we talked about limited representation and institutional discrimination. We kind of covered that, but I guess we can expand on this more. So let's make this the second paragraph. That brings us to 52 words, and here we can write about women are usually not. So I don't know if you can tell, you probably can, but I'm doing this live on the spot for the video, so it's obviously not as easy for me to make up points on the dot, and I haven't prepared for this completely yet. So bear with me, and if you want, you can think of them on your own and try attempting this on your own along with me too. So anyways, women are usually not encouraged to pursue education beyond a bare minimum, as it could enable them to attain financial and social independence, which threatens the stability of the family. For example, urban elite educated women rarely have complete autonomy over their life choices, such as career and marriage, which eliminates the family structure's grip over them. So what I'm trying to say here is that, of course you can understand, what I'm trying to say is that if a woman is highly educated, then she won't follow the norms established. Yeah, I mean, that's a better sentence to write actually. Which erodes the influence of social norms. So she won't be marrying the man of the family's choice. She'll be pursuing the different options, and it'll be more individualistic in nature. So that prevents the grip which a family has over a woman to be shattered. So we're up to 106 words. So okay, that's not bad. So coming back to the second paragraph, this creates a tunnel of negative experiences that could possibly discourage or compel the woman to stop pursuing the higher education forms. How many is that? 128, so maybe another line or two we can cover that. So There's also an important point about intersectionality which we never discussed here. This is our brainstorm page, by the way. So for each of the dimensions, I've written points here. Let's talk about under education, limited representation, face institutional discrimination. What else? What struggles do women have in education? So we already talked about work and labor in the top points, so there's no point in bringing that up again. I guess it's better to talk about maybe let's think. So since we don't have many points, but we still have to reach that word limit of a page, we can add on to here. So, for example, after discussing women are allowed to encourage pursue education beyond environment, we can say that this is supported by statistics that show a higher dropout rate among females, as well as a wide disparity in enrollment rates as well. For example, so that adds another, so we crossed our word limit through that. So this is what I'm saying, a little bit of patchwork to just ensure that we have uniformity in the word limit, even if we're a little bit short on points, because this is a very basic topic and these dimensions are also pretty basic, but we need to write as much as possible with the limited knowledge that we have. Of course, I'm just preparing, so I don't know about the multiple women schemes that could exist, but you guys could know more. You could write more points, but this is kind of a basic overview. So that finishes this dimension as well. Now let's move on to part 3, so which is let's do environment again because it's a little complicated. Let's talk about technology now. So we can start with a quick introduction about what technology is meant to do. So technology is envisaged as an enabler and a liberating tool for people of all ethnicities and genders. However, women have suffered extensively on account of the negative impacts of technology. That's kind of like an introduction paragraph. So that's 30 words, pretty nice. And continuing on with that, the misuse of artificial intelligence has produced consequences like deploying deep fake technology to sexually harass women. Additionally, there are instances of cyberbullying, social media producing unrealistic expectations of women, and mass media which has proliferated through technology. Normalizing objectification. For example, Indian film industry has faced severe backlash over modern film roles showing women as nothing more than a sexual object. So that's a pretty decent way to start this paragraph, and that's already getting us to close to 100 words. So the next point was about algorithmic bias, which we can talk about, but here we discussed deepfake technology, cyberbullying, mass media, objectification, and the Indian film industry as well. So a lot of different forms of technology. And the last one is also about, moreover, AI has also been seen to display algorithmic bias towards female users in terms of the answers generated. This has been captured by the conversations with pre-trained generative AI responses with generative AI tools. So we are at 124 words. So now what to do? Another patchwork is required, I guess. Let's see. Let's go back to our brainstorm. Technology misses a deepfake technology, algorithm bias on gender basis. We can expand. We didn't talk about much here. So coming back to deep fakes, even renowned celebrities have been threatened severely through deep fake imagery. And that's what. Now it brings us to 134. That's another 12 words. Great. Additional instances of cyberbullying. Social media producing unrealistic expectations of women, where it creates mental deprivation and comparison-driven anxiety and FOMO, fear of missing out. Now we come back to this mass media point, so I think that should be the finisher. 3 words, come on. Let's see. Thus technology is not liberating women, but in fact producing worsening their plight and promulgating patriarchy with a new face. So yeah, that's good enough. 166, good. So that's part 3 as well. Now let's talk about equality is done. Let's strike these off. Equality, education, done. Technology, done. Oops. Let's happiness, governance, ethical lens. So let's do happiness, because that's pretty complicated to write 150 words on happiness, but let's give it a shot. So how are men happier than women is basically the question on hand. How do we answer something like this, which is pretty much subjective, how do we put some form of objectivity on it, is the challenge. So let's see. We can start by saying that although happiness is a subjective emotion, we can tell that men have more opportunities for gratification as opposed to women. They face less structural barriers, have more individual opportunities for self-fulfillment, and self-fulfillment and independent pursuit of, is that a word, pursuit? No. Okay, and can pursue their goals and interests with little to no pursue their goals and just with little to no controversy. Not controversy, with little to no conflict. That's okay. We have a lot more to write. Therefore, it can be said that men are happier than women, right? So, of course, this is a pretty arbitrary dimension which doesn't really suit the topic, so we can replace that with something more effective there. But so, for example, in this other approach that I had, which is question answer approach, we break down the topic into 68 questions. So what is the meaning of new woman? What's the difference from old woman? Why fulfillment is still a myth? Like that. This approach that I've taken, ChatGPT approach, not always effective. Even here, I could only brainstorm one point here. So it makes it a little bit difficult, but nonetheless, we can wrap up happiness because this isn't our hard and fast approach. We can add other dimensions later. Let's move on to governance. So almost reaching the end here, so if you're still watching, thank you so much for paying attention till now, and I'm really hoping this is helping you. So governance, fulfillment of new women in India is a myth. New woman oriented governance measures like women reservation in PRI. So we'll cover 4 for now and finish the rest in part 2. So please stay tuned for that. Thank you and goodbye.